everybody. Well, I have chosen a great book, one of my absolute favourites. It's by Roald Dahl, who we know is an amazing author. But the book is Boy, and Boy is an autobiography. It is the story of his childhood. And I love autobiographies because they're true stories, but they are amazing adventures that you can have throughout your life. So I'm going to tell you part of the story of Boy, and I hope that you enjoy it. I will need to put my glasses on. The sweet shop in Llandaff in the year 1923 was the very centre of our lives. Without it, there would have been little to live for. But it had one terrible drawback. This sweet shop, the woman who owned it, was a horror. We hated her, and with good reason to do so. Her name was Mrs. Pratchett. She was a small, skinny old hag with a moustache on her upper lip and her mouth as sour as a gooseberry. She never smiled. She never welcomed us when we went in, and the only time she spoke were when she said things like, "I'm watching you, so you keep your thieving fingers off them chocolates, or I don't want you in here just to look around. Either your fork's up or your gets out." But by far the most loathsome thing about Mrs. Pratchett was the filth that clung around her. Her apron was as grey and greasy as anything. Her blouse had bits of breakfast all over it. Toast crumbs and tea stains, splotches of dried egg yolk. It was her hands, however, that disturbed us the most. They were disgusting. They were black with dirt and grime. They looked as though they had been putting lumps of coal on a fire all day long. And do not forget, please, that it was these very hands and fingers that she plunged into the sweet jars when she was asked for a pennyworth of treacle toffee or wine gums or nut clusters or whatever. There were precious health laws in those days, and nobody, least of all Mrs. Pratchett, ever thought of using a shovel for getting the sweets out, as they do today. The mere sight of her grimy right hand with its black fingernails digging an ounce of chocolate fudge out of a jar would have caused a starving tramp to go running from the shop. But not us. Sweets were our lifeblood. We would have put up with far worse than that to get to them, so we simply stood and watched in silence while this disgusting old woman stirred around in the jar with her foul fingers. The other thing we hated Mrs. Pratchett for was her meanness. Unless you spent a whole sixpence, which was 2.5 pence then, in one go, she wouldn't give you a bag. Instead, you got your sweets twisted up in a small piece of newspaper, which she tore off a pile of the old Daily Mirrors lying on the counter. So you can well understand that we had it in for Mrs. Pratchett in a big way. But we didn't quite know what to do about it. Many schemes were put forward, but none of them was any good. None of them, that is, until suddenly one memorable afternoon we found a dead mouse. Now, I could go on.